Hey, we're doing some rear brakes on a Buick Enclave 09. 22 millimeter on the lug nuts, tires off. There's this little Torx bit here. Let me see what size that is. Oh, we got a T30. Took that out. Sometimes they could be frozen there pretty good and need a little heat. This one didn't. Helps to have somebody hit the brakes or something to get it out. This one broke free pretty easily. And it's rusty. It's been sitting. First thing we're gonna do is get these loose back here. 14 millimeter, the caliper bolts. Sometimes these little guys spin on you, and you got to put a wrench on them. Still has plenty of pad life, but the rotors are destroyed. Somebody put a fresh set of pads on some bad rotors. We're getting it all cleaned up. We got those two 14 millimeters, and I should have a screwdriver right here. I'm just gonna kind of compress the caliper. We don't care about the rotors or pads, they're getting replaced. Going in this little peak hole and gonna try to compress the piston all the way so I don't have to use a tool or anything. That's about as far as we're gonna get, almost all the way in. It's a real light calipers, we're just gonna let it hang there. I do believe we got 21 millimeter on the back of this mounting bracket right here. There we go, there's the bolts. Can't really get an impact in there. I'm gonna grab a pipe, full breaker bar. So I don't have to strain myself as much. Crack these free. They should have like a little bit of Loctite on them that make them real tight over the years, you know. So when you put these back on, you want to put them back on real nice and tight how they are. They are in there. We're gonna make sure our sliders are nice and free. These ones are. They spin. Those are gonna get cleaned up. And we're gonna put some high temp silicone based brake grease in there. They pop right out. See, that's where the grease goes. Right on those slides. Whew. The whole way it's gonna fight. In my experience, these rotors are gonna be jammed on there real good. When they look like this, we got the e-brakes on the inside. The e-brakes are gonna hang up. That's just how it goes on these brakes. Wow. A little bit of heat might not be a bad idea. We'll get the old breaker bar back out. All right, now it's starting to get a little bit loose. What we're gonna do this mounting bracket is clean it up. Always buy premium pads with fresh hardware. Hardware I'm talking about is what sits in between the caliper mounting bracket and the pad, the ear of the pad. And the rust builds up on this mounting bracket. I'll take a little wire wheel, wire brush, or Dremel tool and clean it up where the ears of the pads sit really well. And we'll put the new hardware on. I won't show cleaning that. You can barely get a bar in there. This one's gonna fight me the whole way out. Here we go. Mounting bracket is out. We're gonna clean and grease the slides, clean up, and put the new hardware on that guy. Now this rotor, if you're trying to keep your rotors, you gotta hammer right on this flat spot here and here, you know, in between the lugs. This rotor is going bye-bye. There's so much corrosion right here. When I did the other side, I had to take an air chisel. It's almost like a bead of weld right here, all the way around the hub. We'll see if it'll beat off. See if I can get a good swing this way. Corrosion is starting to give a little. That part broke off. We can take the wire wheel to it, or air chisel. It's just that corrosion is holding the rotor on. This vehicle obviously sat for a while. Everything's rusty, that's steel. Good, like 1/4 inch, 3/8 thick, like weld on there, almost. Might as well throw some blaster in there too, in between the lugs. See if it'll seep in around the hub. That'll do. Now we hammer it a little more. Starting to move. Breaking past all that crud that's still around there. Give it the old wiggle. See if it'll slide past the e-brakes that are inside there that are no doubt rusty. This is a pretty strong dust shield on this, but I still don't want to put too much pressure on it. And that screwdriver is jammed on the inner side of the E-brake. Get the screwdriver in there and just try to work it a little bit. Give it a little vibrations. And it's working its way out there slowly. Grab another screwdriver here. See, this is real stubborn. But it's working its way out. Couple more hammer blows and it should pop off. There we go. It's free. And that rotor is super rusty. Now we want to clean off this hub assembly. If it's real dirty, rusty, that's mostly just PB blaster and rust dust. This one's pretty clean. A little bit of a rust ring on the inside of here. E-brakes look like they still got some good life. They're on there tight. That's good. So now we can get on with putting everything back together. Got the rotor back on. You got this little set screw here. Put that back in. You can hold on, to get it tight, you can hold on to these lug studs, put a bar on them or hold on to them. We gotta exchange our plastic plug from the old rotor. It's no big deal. Got the caliper pushed back in. These calipers push back in really easy unless there's something wrong with them. They are not metal pistons. I used my giant claws to push them back in because they push in so easy. But if you're gonna use something like that, be careful, you can crack these. They're like a ceramic type thing, ceramic or nylon plastic or something. You can crack them, don't crack them. Put a little grease on there, helps with some squeal over the long run. I'm in the salt belt, so what can happen to these mounting brackets is they can swell up. I put a little bit of grease in between the new hardware and the mounting bracket and the ear of the brake pad, just to keep that rust at bay a little bit. So I got it all cleaned up. I used my little Dremel tool to clean up the metal. It was pretty rusty where the old hardware came off. And these pads should go in there pretty easily. They shouldn't be too tight, shouldn't be too loose. So you can see it staying in there, but I can slide them up and down with 2 fingers. So now we're gonna put this mounting bracket back on. Right here. Got my little plug put back in there, little rubber plug. Came out pretty easy, pops right in. So we got this mounting bracket tightened down. You can still see there's a gap in the pads right there. We're gonna prime our brake pedal, press it in and out slowly till the brakes get tight before we go anywhere. Now we did compress that caliper. We'll finish off this job with a little brake bleeding. There's your brake bleeder. Sometimes they like to seize into these aluminum calipers pretty good. This one looks pretty clean considering how rusty the mounting bracket, well, especially the rotor was. But we got those 14mm bolts put back on. I didn't have to put a wrench on this. It tightened up without spinning. Sometimes you need that wrench. So this job's all done. And the reason the rotor was so hard to come off, besides the fact all that corrosion was around this ring, Because we also have a big rust lip right here. It was grabbing onto the e-brakes. You can see how rusty the inside of that rotor was. The outside wasn't nearly that bad. Horrible. Alright guys, hope this video was helpful. Drop me a sub or a like if it was, and have a good one.